Hello everyone, good afternoon, happy new season to you all. Welcome to a resplendent Carrow Road in the sunshine, opening day weather I think it's fair to say. Norwich City are back in action, championship action against Millwall this afternoon, Alex Neil's Millwall, and we are slightly early, you will have noticed, because there's been a slight change in the EFL ruling, which means team news will now be announced 75 minutes before kickoff, so in a minute time, essentially 15 minutes earlier than was the case last season. So instead of the 2 o'clock broadcast, we are going to be live at a little bit earlier across the season. So just marking your card for that very early on. So the Norwich team will drop in a moment and we will see how they line up. Will it be a 3? Will it be a 4? I think, obviously, Paddy Davitt next to me. What we can say is that Jurasek is over there doing some running, and this is how Norwich City line up. It is Kovacevic in goal, Stacey, Medic, Darling, Cordoba and Schlupp. We presume as a back 3/5. We'll come to that in a moment. Topic straight in and starts alongside Jacob Wright with Sinats and Forson either side of Sargent. So we'll try and break that down into a formation for you. It is Kovacevic in goal, Medic, Darling and Cordoba at the back 3. Stacey will be right wing back. Jeff Schlupp will be left wing back with Miko Topic and Jacob Wright. And he said Jacob Wright then. That's where we are on the pronunciations. Jacob Wright and Miko Topic is the 2. Sinats and Forson ahead of them with Sargent up front. So a 3-4-2-1 formation. The bench, Grimshaw, Fisher, Krizene, Gibbs, Nunez, Diallo, Schwartau, Makama and Chris Goran. So that's the subs bench. No McConville, no Jurasek. They both drop out from last weekend. Obviously, Louis Molden was on the bench as well. So a lot of names not on that bench. We'll come to that in a moment. But Paddy, lots of debate over whether it would be a 3 or a 4. It's a back 3, and it's Cordoba for Krizene on that friendly last week. I know you weren't here for that, but makes a lot of sense on paper, that Cordoba Schlupp sort of left-sided combination coming into play today.
Yeah, balance, isn't it? Balance, really. I like it. I like the look of it. Time will tell. And obviously it's day 1 of 46 plus maybe some playoff games, hopefully, if they don't go up in the top 2. But so maybe certainly I'll be managing any expectations. But on paper, I'm just trying to think who would come in and out. I mean, Sargent's in the building, he starts, doesn't he? So Chris Garden, I don't think edges him out. He clearly likes, because we were there with him every step of the way in pre-season, he likes the Cernach-Forson combination, sort of rotating in and around Sargent. So that's no great surprise. The surprise is Topic, isn't it? To come straight in, freshly in the building. Wouldn't have had much training blocks with his teammates to adapt and acclimatise, but no, probably underlines how important they feel he is and the profile of midfielder he is. He's slightly different to what they've got in there. Probably places another question mark about where Nunez fits into the puzzle, given those links to maybe Turkey and the sense that he's 12 months out from the end of his contract now. So Topic is the one for the here and now and the future. Maybe Nunez isn't, but they need to gel. Him and Wright need to gel. So I wouldn't necessarily close the door on Nunez as a starter, but in the here and now, I think that's very telling that we've got to the real business now. Day 1, Liam Manning, Carrow Road, championship opener, and that's, he feels, his best 11. And in that formation, as you say, Connor, it's not a huge surprise. I can't remember now. It was one of the later tour games, wasn't it? It was, yeah. And from that point onwards, it's been this formation, hasn't it? So in his own mind, he's clearly of a mind that particularly defensively, is where he wants to go. And with Schlupp in there alongside Stacey, 2 Premier League grade operators. So what's not to like about that? Cordoba, yeah, I would have gone Cordoba instead of Krizene. I don't know where you are on that, but and Medic and Darling are quite clearly the key parts of this defensive unit. Again, it underlines Duffy and Hills and Adebayo where they stand in the pecking order. McDonville as well. He could be a little bit disappointed, I think, not to even make the bench, but I've been away for a few days, but when the squad numbers dropped and you had to scroll down and down and down, it went down to about 50 in the end.
I mean, you've got a programme there. Yeah. Just turn that around and put that in front of the camera. I mean, that is Norwich City's list, and it literally touches the bottom of the page. It's a big squad, and that probably serves as a nice segue onto who's not in the squad. McConville, we've seen Jurasek doing some running over the far side. Emi Marcondes isn't in the squad. Slimani, who obviously wasn't in the friendly squad last weekend. Shane Duffy. There's a lot of very senior players within that group who are not in this matchday squad today. And we're kind of speaking in the press room, and it gives you a clearer idea maybe of where Liam Manning's head is at with a lot of those players that he does have at his disposal who are maybe more on the fringes.
And to be fair, I mean, I've watched all the post Breedy you did with him here last weekend and the midweek pre-match for Millwall. And and I don't think he could be any clearer. And that's backed up now by the fact that those names, particularly Duffy, particularly Slimani, are not even in the matchday squad. It is pretty clear to me that their days are numbered here under Manning. And it's just that exit strategy now. And that's where I liked what Manning had to say, that, look, all I can do in these situations is be transparent, be open, be honest, be very candid in terms of where he feels those players fit in. Unless something dramatic changes, it looks to me they don't fit in. So now, if you're a Shane Duffy, for example, him and his advisors, right, it's pretty clear you're not going to get a kick here, I don't think, unless something dramatically happened injury-wise or anything else. So you've got, what is it now? Window closes just under a month. Yeah. Crack on, find yourself a new club, and get yourself playing. Particularly for him at his age as well. He's only got 12 months left here now. Yeah. If that's going to be 12 months kicking the heels, that doesn't serve his purposes in terms of his next potentially final career move. So I like it. I like it. It's clarity. There's no grey areas. It's not, well, they can maybe work their way back in. My reading of that situation is Liam Manning has sat down with Duffy, maybe with one or two of the younger ones, and said, you're probably not going to be for me in the here and now. With the younger ones, that's probably going to be more of a loan exit. I don't see Hills and Adebayoga moving on necessarily. Maybe Adebayoga, because he's not been anywhere near under Torup and now under Manning. But the senior ones, Slimani, I could see that being a handshake and away you go. And Duffy as well. And then some of those younger ones out on loan, because as we've just touched on there, that is a very bloated list of players. You cannot keep all of those in the building between now and the end of this window. So it's just how you manage those exits. And to be fair, I'm sure the Duffys and the Slimanis of this world will know where they stand under him. And if it's that they're not part of it, then go and get yourself something else.
Someone who is here and is starting, Josh Sargent, not just leading the line for Norwich City today, but also captain. I think we probably expected that to be the case, although Liam Manning was not willing to divulge that in midweek, understandably perhaps. But that's and to be fair, Sargent has been throughout pre-season pretty much the captain. And you mentioned some of the players who aren't involved today. Well, Kenny McLean, of course, injured, has still got to come into this mix as well. So that shows you just where this squad is at in terms of how heavy it is. But a massive boost, irrespective of what happens over the next 3 weeks with Josh Sargent, for Norwich City to be starting the Championship campaign with him lining up, him wearing the armband. That's got to be good news to what Liam Manning wants to do, which is get off to quite a strong start this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's just popped into my head. Obviously, today's opponents, we know their manager very well, Alex Neil. When the fixtures came out over the summer, he did a little bit with TalkSport, and he was talking about this block of 10, how important it is for momentum to inject some go forward into your season, particularly in what looks a very competitive championship, even by championship standards. So to do that, you need players of the calibre of Josh Sargent, really, if you're looking at it through a Norwich perspective. And it's all gone quiet after the Wolfsburg sort of avenue was closed by him, less so by the clubs. My fear would still be,
No, I don't think we've heard the
answer. Oh, no. If you ask me now, will he be a player for Norwich beyond the end of this window? I'd say no. It's just who now emerges, probably Premier League suitors, with the financial elements that make sense for Norwich, and maybe the ambition element that makes sense for him, if he didn't feel that Wolfsburg and the Bundesliga were necessarily that. So, but while he's here, there'll certainly be no questions about his temperament or his willingness. You go back to this day last season, it was the John Rowe fiasco.
Yes.
So we're not going to get anything like that with this boy. We're going to get, dedication, and the fact he's got the armband, that tells you as well what Liam Manning said all through the summer to us, that he's got absolutely no issues with his character, with his willingness to buy in while he's still here, while he's still a Norwich player. He will continue to use him as such, and as a result, I'm looking down there, and if you place Major Store by who has the captain's armband, I think he was the outstanding candidate. Darling, maybe you could make an argument for, but Sargent is the one who's been in the building, has that instant respect, I'm sure, with the newer players, but also the ones who've been here, and it makes sense to me that he leads this team out today. And we'll see what happens in the next 3 weeks, but in the here and now, I've got no qualms that he will give his all for this football club, because that's how he's carried himself every time he's pulled on a Norwich shirt.
Yeah, indeed, and I think I've told the story before about the story that came out in America, which has some quotes from him that I don't think he was best pleased with how they'd been conveyed in that piece, and he was the player that did the post-match the next game. He was very quick and very keen to clear that up. So I think he values that relationship that he has with the supporters, and I'm sure a full Barclay, Snake Pit and Carrow Road will probably make him fully aware of just how much they think of him today as well. I count in the team So you've got Kovacevic, Medic, Darling, Schlupp, Topic, Wright technically, although obviously he was here last year. So let's say 6 new permanent signings, but 5 new signings, excluding Jacob Wright from that list. Particularly defensively, it feels like a completely different Norwich City team. Obviously, I went in the week and spoke to Mirko Topic, and I think you got a sense of the type of character he was from that chat. He only swore twice, which is pretty good going.
It was off camera. Who was he bantering with off camera?
That was Josh Sargent and Kenny McLean, who were basically at the window. If you've not seen the clip, I think the club have subsequently put it out, but yeah, I won't do it because I don't have any. But they were flexing their muscles in, a jest of his club announcement. But you can see physically what he is, and it'll be interesting to see. I think Liam Manning was quite clear that actually he's not just a big lump. He's not just going to kick people. It's also about reading situations, interceptions, your defensive positioning. Those are all key for defensive midfielders, particularly in the modern game. It's going to be interesting to see if he can fill that. Not that there's much pressure on him, of course, but to fill that void that it's felt like Norwich have had in their team for a long period of time, probably since that summer when Alex Tetty and Ollie Skip left.
Yeah, I'll see the mention there. Is he the new Tetty? I mean, we'll see.
Steady, yeah. Let's give him a little bit of time.
We'll see. But my biggest takeaway from those interviews was the his admission that Lee Dunn had reached out to him as long ago as this time last summer. The planets didn't quite align from Norwich's profiling and maybe what he was looking for, but that's how long they've wanted this player, and the fact he's been parachuted straight in would tell you that they feel his attributes that you touched on there, Connor, were badly needed, particularly in a championship environment. I've got to be brutally honest, I hadn't seen too much of him, if anything, so I don't know technically how good he is, but it strikes me if you've been playing in Portugal, not for one of Portugal's Premier clubs, fair enough, but you've got to be able to handle the ball if you're playing in the Portuguese league, so in that area of the pitch particularly. So whatever he brings physically, you'd also like to think, he's technically he's good on the ball, and obviously alongside him he's got Wright. And Liam Manning has talked through the summer about blends and complementing players, and when you're looking to sign players, you're looking at how they complement with the ones around them. Well, a Topic and a Wright axis could be very, very interesting. If that fires, if that blends, well, you've got everything you need in terms of a central midfield unit for me at this level. You've got that physicality, that robustness out of possession, but also, crucially, particularly at Carrow Road, when a lot of teams will come in, sit in, low block, having a player like Wright there, with his passing range and his vision.
Frees him up as well, doesn't it? Because
Exactly,
I think we
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. You said it there. We saw enough of him. I probably felt those defensive elements
Not
against
strong.
the ball just wasn't quite
No.
what he's best at. And actually spoke on the Talk Norwich City podcast about that want to add more goals and maybe be a little bit higher up the pitch. It was interesting. I didn't realise that he'd scored quite as many goals for Manchester City's under-21s as he has. So he clearly does have that in his game. And like you say, that balance is going to be key. And if it frees him up to go and affect things as he did last week when he stepped in and played the ball out, what was it, for Sargent's second goal, then that could be really beneficial for Norwich in their midfield mix.
Yeah, it's exciting. Obviously, there's always that optimism at the start of the season, but it's funny. I've been away all week, came back last night. First thing you have to do is restock the fridge, so a bit of an emergency. And stopping me in the car park was a Norwich fan who was absolutely could not wait. He was almost like Christmas. He said he wasn't going to sleep last night. But he was making a point that, and I think this is fair to me, that previous summers, even Johannes, which was badged as a transition, there was still an expectation that Norwich would get it, it would come together, and they'd be at the right end of the table. And obviously, the last 2 or 3 years, it's been disappointment, massive disappointment. This feels, I've seen already some of the comments, this is nailed on playoffs now. This group of players are more than good enough. That's the Bayer expectation. You talk to Manning, you talk to Napa, as we have over the summer, and all the people around them, they expect top 6. We know that's, wherever you sit on the Johannes exit, the top 6 was clearly one of the factors in play there in terms of benchmarking him and Glenn and the work they were doing. So this does feel, aside from the opening day and the sun shining and people are, can't wait for what's ahead, there's all that unbridled optimism. It feels that it's actually backed up by, you look at that 11 now, there's players that can come in to this mix as well to bolster it further. There's a right to be excited. Nobody quite knows how it's going to gel, how quickly it's going to gel, what other teams are going to be like. But, I don't think it's blind optimism to feel that this group of players with this head coach who got Bristol into the top 6 this time last season cannot do something similar in the months ahead.
His depth as well for me. You mentioned that bench. You read some of the names on it. We can even go goalkeeper, but we're not going to see hopefully too much of Dan Grimshaw. Nunez on the bench, Diallo on the bench, Makama, Schwartau, Chris Gordon, Fisher. All players that, if they're not new, Fisher had a really good year. Would he come second in the Player of the Season vote last season? On the bench, Krasene, we've seen enough from him to know that he's a competent player at Championship level. Schwartau as well, very exciting young player. Marcelino Nunez, who, when he's on it, there are a few better midfielders in the league. That's a very exciting bench to start from, and that's just not something that Norwich really had last season. And for all of the kind of talk that we've done about the big squad, that is a plus of it. Let's bring you the Millwall team then, if we can. This is how Alex Neil's side line up today. They've got Bender in goal, Kramer, Tanganga, Cooper and Alfie Doherty at left back, Neki, Dunor, Mitchell and Aziz as their midfield four, and new signing Josh Coburn alongside Ivanovic, who is very highly rated. I'll just try and find their subs because I haven't actually been given a team sheet, not to call out the Norwich City media team, but that's not come up yet. They have got Kronbate, Sturge, Langstaff, Leonard, Luongo, Imanku, Kundal, Grant and Bangura Williams, who I believe was a one-time Norwich youth player or had a trial here. There's definitely a Norwich link to him as well. So that's how Alex Neil's team line up, and they are going to be, as we'll talk about in a moment, as you'd expect with Alex Neil's, well-structured, ready to go, and pretty strong out of possession. And Paddy, before we sort of go any further, I think one player we did mention who obviously not in the squad, Mate Jurasek. I mean, look, clearly we know the story since January, 2 games. There's been a lot of frustration around him generally. Is it a concern for you that we've reached the opening day of the season and he's not in that matchday squad?
Well, it's not ideal, is it? Because I remember the first media round we had at the end of last season, Ben Napper said, you know, the aim with him was day one pre-season, he was fit, he was raring to go. That clearly hasn't proven to be the case. I thought he was telling last week, looking from afar, that he only got the last 10 minutes. That kind of told you where he's at in the pecking order right now, fitness-wise, maybe more than anything else. Just go back to that very first hit out behind closed doors against Northampton, where he played, scored 20 minutes. That was your lot, so off he came. And Manning was very much of a mind. We've just got to be so careful. We all know the backstory with him now since he got in the building. The talent, I don't think, is in doubt, but the fitness and that robustness.
Team sheets are arriving.
Yeah, I don't think they heard you, mate. Yeah, so I can't say that it's a huge surprise, given that he only got 10 minutes against Breeder off the back of his story since he came to Norwich. But I mean, he did have to have that, what was badged to us as a minor hernia op, didn't he, as well, starting the summer. That might have set him back a little bit. But you know, we've seen him doing a bit of a warm down pre-match over on the far side in front of the south stand. So short order after this is a League Cup trip to Watford. Is that an opportunity to involve him, build him up a little bit? Because what you don't want with him now, given his backstory thus far as a Norwich player, is he breaks down again. All that summer work that they've done to edge him along, and then he's out for any length of time thereafter. So you can understand why they're erring on the side of caution, particularly, you know, you've got a player like Jallow on the bench. I mean, if he can't make the 11, given, you know, how highly rated he is, then Chris Gordon as well. There's
Armour who can play out wide.
Exactly, yeah. There's absolutely no urgency or need to fast track him back into today. Just, you know, if it takes another X amount of weeks, I mean, yeah, I mean there is an international break coming up, isn't it? In short order, early September, and looks like Mahovo's targeting the other side of that. McLean, is that realistically when Jurasek is right? He's now available from the start, and if so, then there's another body of work fitness-wise to build on what they've already done with him. But you know, I'm trying to think. I mean, he played in that Olympiacos game, didn't he? The second double header out in Holland, which effectively was young players. I think Liam Gibbs was involved there, but the majority of the senior lads played in the evening game. So it's very obvious that for Liam Manning, he isn't quite ready yet. And if that's the case, with this squad depth, don't take any risks.
Yeah, you mentioned Liam Gibbs. Good to see him on the bench. Obviously, it's been a really tough period for him, and I think it probably shows. We've mentioned so many names that aren't in. The fact he has got in probably shows where Liam Manning's head at is on him. Let's go to the game then, Paddy, just to finish off. I mean, you know, you covered Norwich City when Alex Neil was here, the impact he had, the type of teams he's built subsequently at Preston, maybe Sunderland as well, less so obviously Stoke, which I think has been difficult for a host of really good managers to go in there and make an impact. He's had a very good impact at Millwall since he was appointed in December. I think it was 4 teams who took more points than Millwall. So the impact has been pretty strong. Yep, he is starting. This is going to be a tough one, isn't it? And also, it's opening day, so we don't quite know what we're going to get. But we've mentioned about Norwich and the optimism that is here and in the home end. plenty of optimism in that away end as well, given how they've ended the season. And 2,500 I think are here today. It feels like it's going to be kind of a good test to see probably where Norwich are at, really, against a team that finished 8th last season, and obviously hoping to build on that again.
Yeah, it does concern me that it is an Alex Neil team who's in the way of Liam Manning getting off to the perfect start. Because, as you say, he did for Johannes, really, didn't he? That was his final game in charge on that Easter Monday.
Well, just to cut across you there, I did check. I believe this is the first time ever that the same coach has been in charge for the last game of a Norwich manager's tenure. Yeah. And the first, I did check that with NCFC numbers yesterday, and he's pretty sure that is right. There's a couple of instances with I think Mike Walker played Kevin Keegan twice or something in his first and last game. But yeah, in terms of sort of one manager to the next, I think Alex Neil's the first. So there's a pointless stat for him to throw.
No, it's good stuff. But he did a tremendous job picking up the reins at Millwall. He got them to the final day, didn't he? I think they went to Burnley, and they were still in realistically with a shot at the top 6. Very similar in many respects to the initial 6-month impact he had here, famously, obviously, triumphing at Wembley. So I haven't really played too much. Tanganga still in the club, I think, is big for them, because I think there must have been a fear that he would go
as well. He's been linked to some big clubs.
So they will expect to carry on maybe in the same vein they finished last season. That's why I think this is a very difficult opponent for Norwich today. Nothing will come easy with an Alex Neil team. Of that you can be sure. So I wouldn't rule out a draw, if I'm honest. I know I'm fast-tracking us to predictions already, but just because it is a manager Norwich fans know very well. They know when he was good here, his teams were gnarly, streetwise, would roll their sleeves up, would battle you, would then try and overpower you. We saw a lot of those attributes in that Millwall team when Norwich went there and rolled over too compliantly, sadly, for Johannes anyway. So I don't expect anything else but that again today, which is maybe why, again, going back to the Norwich lineup, Topic is in, a bit of ballast there to maybe fight fire with fire. But, I think Norwich get anything today, they will have to earn it, definitely.
And will they?
They will get something, but I could see a draw. I could also see maybe just Norwich 2-1. You?
Yeah, I was going to go 2-1 Norwich, actually. I think same reasons as you. This is going to be difficult. I don't worry, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of impact the schedule, which I think we both agree was a little bit odd in pre-season, has had, and whether they've been able to quite... I think he did manage to get up to speed. But one thing is, I think Millwall will be there. They'll be ready to go for the reasons you've outlined. I think this is going to be a very difficult game, actually, on paper. Could see all three, as we will say so often throughout the season, I can see all 3 results in play. But yeah, I think it will. I think Norwich will edge this, just with that momentum and with the optimism here. I'm sure the atmosphere will be great as well. We've got the flags in the Barclays. First time I've seen those for a little while. So yeah, let's hope Norwich City can get off, and Liam Manning, of course, to a good start. We will have you covered all basis across the afternoon. Pinken.com, the place to go. Our offer is still running, so you can go and check that out. Pinken.com/subscribe, £15 for the year. Essentially, go and check that out, and that gets you covered all the way through the season as well. So there we go. Plenty more of these live videos to come before games and whatnot. Equally, and Paddy, of course, will be speaking to Liam Manning after the game. Thank you all very much for watching. Happy new season to you all. Whether you're here at Carrow Road today in the sunshine, or whether you're following from afar, let's hope Norwich City get off to a good start. See you soon.